So how much about Google Docs do you know?
Not much. I mean, I get my one customer, Captain Compass. He sends me everything in Google Docs.
Yep.
And part of me, like I think I showed you that one day, it's like, and then I'm keeping track of stuff somewhere else because I'd like to be able to use it more. Because even around the plans, getting stuff to people makes more
Yes.
sense.
Um, Basically, like you said, it can be difficult holding things in two places, and then I like Google Docs a lot because that way I can send something to someone, and then when they edit it, I get all the edits right
Right.
there, and there's
That's what I
only
want to be able to do.
yeah, and there's only one copy of it, so that way you don't have to hold on to the five revisions that you've done over the last however long.
I have a question. I have, before I'm going to interrupt, but I have this big Excel file that Kathy Hahn and I work off of when we start getting the True Value jobs in. It's already set up. Is there a way to now put it in Google Docs or no?
Yes, there is, and that was one of the things I was going to show you because I kind of figured that would be one of the things you guys would be doing.
So maybe I'll even, I wonder if we can work on that one, if I sent it to you or I
Yeah,
opened it up
yeah,
or
we could definitely do that. Either that or after this, I can literally just come over there
over.
and
Okay,
then.
cool. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so there's many ways to go to the Google Sheets, is what the Excel of Google is called. Actually, I should really make sure that I'm recording. Okay, good, I am. Um, so Google Sheets, there's also Google Docs and Google Slides. And
Okay.
that you can access by going to drive.google.com, and then I'm just hitting the new, and then we can do that. Or you can literally just go to sheets.google.com, and that will open up all the spreadsheets that you already have underneath your account. The only bad thing is that you can't do it underneath your Action Printing. Um, you need a Google account.
Okay, okay.
So that is one downfall to it. But
You can't just go in Excel and make it. You have to go through this Google.
yes.
Okay, got it.
So
Okay.
so I'm just gonna open up a new document here. So I either hit the plus that was down here or the new and then Google Sheets and then hit new and it opens
So
up
I
a
can
new
just
one.
Google Sheets and I come to this and I get to
Yep,
this.
that works
Okay.
too. Um, so then I'm just going to show you how to import it first because that seems to be the main thing. That's actually what I have first on here. Anyway, so if you hit File and then Import
Okay.
and then go to Upload, there's many ways to do it. Obviously, you can have it on your Google Drive and then it would be right here, or you can go to Upload, select a file from your computer. I have one on my desktop that I was using as an example and I don't know where it went, but we'll just use this one. Now oh, there it is. And then I would just click replace spreadsheet. So that way it just puts it into the spreadsheet that we have open and then import data. Import data. And then after working its magic for a little bit, it should bring in everything once it loads here a little bit. There we go. So this is the file that I brought in from Excel. It might not keep all the formatting, but all
This
the
I was
data
wondering.
is going to
Okay.
be there.
Okay.
And Google Sheets is pretty intuitive about how you can still format it. It just might not be the same as what you have in Excel.
Got it.
So let's say once you get in here, it didn't bring over like this row was a different color. Well, all of that's still up here. It's just in a different UI than what you had over in Excel. So for this one, it's going to probably be in format, and then it's in here somewhere.
Okay.
It's just playing around with it to find out where all the different things are. And it's going to look a little bit different, but it's Google.
Yeah, that's close enough.
Um, and then you can also do like the normal formatting, like this is that formatting in Excel. So we can change these to percentages if they were percentages and dollar amounts and change the decimal places and so on and so forth.
Got it.
Um, There's also a way that you can export this. So let's say that from Cap and Compass, you have that spreadsheet and you want it over in Excel for
Yeah, that's what I do right now.
Yep.
Every time I get one, I download an Excel, and that's how I send it to
Yep.
people.
Yep. So you do this right here, the file download as Microsoft Excel.
Yep.
Okay. That that is a viable option, but obviously it won't update from the Excel over to the Google spreadsheet. But
Because for me, like when I get Cap and Compass, it's a mail list of a couple addresses each week.
okay.
Instead of forwarding the Google Sheets to people around here, it just makes more sense for me to make an Excel file with
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, and then I'm just gonna quickly go over how to share things because some people don't know because
Oh, I know.
like Adam was wondering how to do it and some other
Yeah.
people. So
Okay.
it's gonna ask me to name it, so I'm just gonna do test, and then you can just enter in different names. I'm just gonna put in my other email.
And
So
this you could enter in Action Printing addresses, right?
these ones you can send the link over to say my Action Printing, but once they log in, they have to use a Google account.
Log in with Google. Yep. Okay.
And then over here you can edit it so that way they can edit it, they can only comment it.
Oh, good, good, good.
So let's say there's just something that they aren't allowed to edit anything, you can just do the can view, and then they can't edit anything within it.
But typically, the whole reason for doing the Google Sheets is you do want people to edit it, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
But for some people who maybe use Google Sheets as their main source, they don't. They who knows? There's so many different options here.
Yeah.
And then this shareable link up here, this is so that way you can copy the physical link and email it out to somebody and just like include it in an email as opposed to going through Google Sheets to do it.
Okay.
So that way you can put it in your own email, so that way you aren't sending it from your Google email, which might be important in some scenarios. And then again, you can edit the permissions on that. And then there's always more. You can change it so that way if I sent it out to 5 people, people 1 through 3 can view it, people 4 and 5 can only, and so many other things too. It's just really playing with it. You can share it via Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, but I think the easiest way is to copy and paste the link, put it in your email, send it out. And then again, they would have to have a Google account and they can't sign in through their Action Printing, which can be somewhat confusing. Any more questions on that Google Sheets?
I don't think so.
Okay. Then I'm going to move on to pivot tables, which I've been learning about over the last week, and honestly, I am surprised with how much they can possibly do. So I'm going to go over to the sheet that's called 4-4, create a leaderboard. And these are not my spreadsheets, these are something I pulled offline. So then this one just starts out with 3 years worth of data and worth of sales and everything. So basically what pivot tables do are they allow you to categorize by one of these. So it could be by category, it could be by payment type, so on and so forth. So first we're just going to click anywhere within the cell, and you can either hit Control Q, and that will select the entire table, and then this window comes up, and we could hit Tables, and then we can highlight. I'm just hovering over these to see what they look like, and then you can pick the one that you want. So let's say this one's showing all the sales in Chicago, Denver, Las Vegas, so on so forth, and then the amount of dollars within that. Another option is click anywhere. Again, clicking anywhere. You can hit Insert Recommended Pivot Tables, and then it will show the same thing in a dialog box.
Oh, cool.
So I'm going to go ahead and do the city one, and I'm just going to hit OK. Now it does it in a different spreadsheet. It's always going to be to the left of the one that you made the data of. And then the thing about pivot tables is that you can't really edit the data within it. So even though it says this in here, I can't go in here and try to type something. It will just not allow it, which is actually both really nice and sometimes a little bit of a pain. So first, since these are number of sales, or the sum of sales, I'm going to go in here, and you can still edit the formatting of them. So I'm going to go in here and make it so that way they're the currency, so that way we can see it in dollars. And you can do that within the entire spreadsheet. Now you may have saw that little window that was over on the right hand of my screen. That should come up every single time you click on it, but if it doesn't, like let's say I get rid of it, you can right click on it and click Show Field List, and then that will pop up again.
Okay.
Now this is the main controller of the pivot table. So the way this works is that rows, that's what shows up in this column. I'm gonna quick see what this is. I don't know what that was. Rows is going to be the first column. The values is going to be the second column. And we can put in any of these within it, which I'll go over more in a little bit. Columns is going to be, I'm just going to put in something in there right now to show you what's in there. So we're going to put sales reps, and we're going to just click and drag into the columns. And that takes from this table here, goes over to the sales rep, and then it sorts it out by sales rep. We still have that grand total, this sum of sales, over on the right hand, but we also have these sums here. So if we wanted to just see based on ands within Chicago, it would be 16,000 whatever. And then filters allows you to filter the entire data set by whatever you put in there. So what I did earlier was I separated out by quarter. So again, I'm clicking and dragging the quarter, and then that pops up in the upper left-hand corner. And we can click down this drop menu, and then we can click on quarter 2 if we only want to see quarter 2, and then it changes everything based on only quarter 2. Yeah. And then you can, as you saw probably in this drop down, that you can select multiple, and then we can do sections 2 and 4, and it will do 2 and 4.
I'll take my while.
Can I come back to you in like 45 minutes?
Anytime today would probably be okay. Because sorry.
Sounds good. Thanks, Pat. Sorry about that. So then I'm just going to click all, so that way it goes back to normal. Now there's another way to do kind of what I just did with that filtering. So as long as I'm clicked within this table, and then I go to Analyze, and then Insert Splicer. Now this allows me to pick one of my variables. In this case, I'm going to do, I think we're going to do quarter again. Actually, let's go by order date. Now this brings up a little dialog box that we can expand and stuff, and then we can click on these buttons, and then it just shows that. And you can click and then hold down Shift, and then it will select all of those. So this would be of January of 14, and we can do that, and you can just click around and hit all of these, and it will show the data for only that one. And then we can always just get rid of this, and then it goes back to normal. Yeah. And then another thing you can do that's kind of similar to that is back over in Analyze, right next to Splicer here. There's Timeline. Now this one only goes off of dates. So obviously the only one that had a date was order date. I'm going to checkbox that, hit OK. And now we have a lovely timeline chart here that shows all the data that we have, and we can always change this or how it views by clicking down this drop down. And I'm going to just put it to quarters. Now earlier when I did quarters up in with the filter and I clicked the drop down of this, if I clicked quarter 2, it would do quarter 2 of 2014, 2015, and 2016. But with this, we can bring it down to specifically only 1 quarter of 1 year. And we can always click and drag so that maybe we want to see the first half of the year in 2016. And we can see that here, which can be very helpful. You can it's fairly intuitive, and client, or like, obviously you wouldn't send this sort of data out to a client, but maybe you have something else and you can show them, and they should be able to easily tell, hey, if I click here, it shows quarter 2, and look at that. It's really easy to set up and use. Another thing that's really helpful about this is pivot charts. And pivot charts go off of the pivot table. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my timeline here. And actually, now I'm going to go over to the other document I gave you there. Any questions on that so far?
Nope.
Okay. It's fairly easy. I remember opening up the pivot table and then it didn't show anything, and I'm like, well, what did I do now? But once you learn that this window is here, everything seems to work a little bit easier. So now I'm going to go over to that other spreadsheet, the 4-6.
Okay.
Now this one already has a table made, and then it's based off of sales reps and then the sum of sales. So while I'm clicked in here, we're gonna go to Analyze, and then we're gonna go to, it's Insert, then Pivot Chart, and then we're just gonna click Pivot Chart. Most of the time it will give you its recommendation, which in this case, I'm gonna go ahead and pick just this bar chart here, and hit OK. And then if it decides to like me, now this is just the total of their sales. But I can click back over to this, and I'm going to go ahead and put category and click and drag that into the columns. And that added a lot to our chart here. So we have all of this info within this visual. And so basically it's separated out by first the sales rep down here, and then it separates it out by the category. So if they sold the baked goods and mixes, that's this blue color here for each of the salespeople. And another thing we can do with that splicer, so if we go back over to that the splicer here while we have the chart selected, we can go over and click this category, hit OK, bring that over here, and let's say we just want to look at candy. We can click on candy, and then it shows us the salesperson and then what they've sold for candy over the entire 3 years. And again, you can hit Control and click on More to see more, and then it automatically updates it. So it's really intuitive of how this works. Now maybe we want to add another splicer in there too. So if we click on our graph here again, and then go over to Analyze and then Splicer, maybe we will also want it to go by quarter. Actually, no. Let's go by. Actually, no. Quarter sounds fine. That way we can see in Q1 for candy and condiments, this is the data that we have for those. And you can have as many of these splicers as you want, as long as you click on the graph first and then over to Analyze Splicer, and then pick whichever one you want. There's one. So now you can see that Michael and Nancy are grayed out because they didn't have any data to report for Q1 for candy and condiments. But if we click on more, or different ones, or if we click on them all, they'll show up again. And it also changes the graph above, which can be very helpful. But let's say you see that Michael has a lot of condiments, and you're kind of wondering, hey, what is that exact value? You can actually just hover over it, and then it shows 58,474, and you can do that for any of these. So then maybe we want to go over to hit keep all the salespeople, but we just want to know how he goes against the other people. So I'm going to hit condiments, and then there we go. And it automatically sorts it for you and everything. Some people, according to the video I watched, don't like these buttons. These buttons also sort it for you.
Okay.
Basically, these buttons do the same thing as the splicer does, but I think the splicer is more visually appealing.
Mm-hmm.
So what we can get rid of all these buttons by right-clicking on one of the buttons and then say hide all field buttons on chart, and then it's a little bit nicer. And then another thing you can do is just put this chart right over our data here. Put the splicers down here maybe. So that way, when you click on more, the chart is still hidden from view, but the table is hidden from view, but the chart still shows through, and people will only focus on the visuals of it, and if they still want to know what's behind it, they can, or you can hover over whatever they're interested in to find out.
Okay.
Yeah. And then another trick I learned was while we have clicked on this chart, and you wanted to view differently, so maybe we want to sort by the category as opposed to the salesperson. So we can go over to Design and then hit Switch Row/Column, and it will automatically just basically flip-flop it. So now all the salesmen are within the colors, and then we have our categories here, and we can still hit our buttons over here, and everything works out fine. And again, you can do the timeline, and I'm sure there's plenty of other options within these 3 tabs here that I'll go over at a later time. But again, I can add a timeline to this too, put that over here, maybe make it longer so that way we can see more of what's going on here. I'll probably change it to years. I only want to see 2015. Any questions about that?
No.
That's really all I have.
I have a question for Google Docs again.
Yeah.
So typically, I'm trying to think, Google Docs, Google Sheets, whatever, typically do you start everything in Excel if you're going to make something, and then do you just use that if you want to share it so everybody can edit it? Is that the main reason?
It's really however you want to use it. When I use Google Sheets up at school, I most of the time start in a Google Sheet.
You do?
Yes, because for my laptop that I have a Mac, and then but it also has a Windows side. it technically counts as two computers that I have. I can log into Windows and I can log in onto the Mac side. But the files aren't shared between the two. So I take all my notes in Google Sheets or Google Docs, and so that way I can access those files through the cloud on both of those. And then I become real popular when I share my notes over Google Docs with all my classmates.
Every time you share them, you have to go in there and press that share button and put the addresses.
Yep. And literally in one of my classes, I popped up in the share button, and then the computer kind of went around the room, and everybody entered in their email.
Okay,
and then I set it up so that way they could edit too. So that way we could all take notes on the same sheet.
Yeah.
And then so that way if somebody missed something, hopefully somebody else picked it up.
So what's the difference between Google Sheets and Google Docs?
So if we go back over to the drive here, Google Sheets is a spreadsheet, and Google Docs is like a Word document.
Got it. Okay, so Docs, okay.
And then Slides is going to be like PowerPoint.
Yeah, like my son, being young, they do Slides a lot when they're doing little presentations and things like that. So what's the, like when you're done here, I want you to pop by, like the one sheet that Kathy and I use to keep track of things. Is the biggest advantage of using the Google Sheets just so we both can be in at the same time?
That's one of the biggest things, yes.
Okay, but when we go into it, like if I share this or make this a Google Sheets, for her and I to go in and edit it, we have to go through Google Docs to edit it. We don't go in Excel to edit it.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yes. And that way, like, let's say that you two have a meeting and then you're like, man, we both need to work on this one sheet and adds whatever. And then both of you have your own documents. So then you send them to each other and then you're like, oh, I don't have your info and so it's not shared. This way, both of you can work on it at the same time, still have the same data in there. And even within in here, there's like a chat function, which I don't think is here because I didn't share this with anyone. In here, send it. And there's also like comments and stuff in here that I can right click on this and then scroll down to insert comment and say this needs to be changed. Hit comment, and then that will show up for everyone.
Okay.
So that way, if you type this, Kathy could go over and say, oh, okay, and then change it.
And how do you, this is a dumb question. Like Captain Compass, when he sends me something and it's, he shares it with me and I always download it Excel. What if I didn't download it Excel? What if I mean, how do I get back to what he shared to me? To keep going back to that link? Can I save it somewhere? Can I?
So if you saved it as an Excel spreadsheet and then you wanted to re-upload it, you could do that. So I'm going to go ahead and add
What if I didn't save it as an Excel sheet? How do I just work off it with him? And how does?
So he sends you something.
Yep.
And then what are you doing with it? You're just going off of Google Sheets.
Yes.
Okay.
Right now, I'm not really doing anything with it at all. I mean, it's a mail list.
Yep.
All I'm doing is forwarding it on to the mail department.
Yep.
But
So
what if I wanted to like add a sheet to it and say return packages and keep track of that right on his thing?
you can do that. Pretty much this is the same layout as Excel. So down here I have all my different sheets that you would, just like in Excel. So I have all these different ones down here.
How would he know once I made a change? How would he know, oh, Sarah did this?
You can either, it will show up live on his screen, like let's say he had it popped up, Or later on, you can just email them quick saying, "Hey, I changed this."
Okay.
There might be a way within Google Sheets to tell them. I believe there's also like a log that happens. Yeah, like right here, that comment that I made, it's up here in the in this notifications. There's also like a little chat, which I don't remember where that is. Um, but we can always figure that out later.
Yeah, sometime later.